Last week, I highlighted that the AI sector was outperforming and was likely going to be the number one sector to outperform if the market kept on rallying, saying here that the market is hinting at which sector will see the most upside if Bitcoin keeps on rallying. This was when Bitcoin was in the low 90s and now it's pushed up into the mid 90s. I spoke about TAO around the same time on the YouTube channel 6 days ago when it was $311, and now it's $370. We're starting to see this AI bid catch some momentum. There are AI coins up 10, 20, 30% in the last 24 hours alone, and it's very clear where the market wants to bid. So in today's video, I want to dive a little bit deeper into a subsector of AI I've never covered on the channel before, and this is robotics. I think this is the perfect narrative at the moment because it captures the overall AI trend, which is really hot, but it's also a future longer term trend that I expect is going to garner a lot of attention. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you my top picks across the Decentralized Physical AI Infrastructure stack, which covers the humanoid robotics and the robotics sector, which is obviously one of the highest growth sectors in the real world. If you do look at the robotics technology market size, it's expected to grow over the next 10 years to $372 billion. It's already grown substantially over the past few years, and that market share is only going to keep increasing as it's currently averaging a compounded annual growth rate of 15%. But we all know crypto. Crypto operates on hype cycles. Crypto operates on momentum and operates on narrative. And I can wholeheartedly say there's no other narrative as hot as AI. And as a subsector of that, if you want to break down AI in crypto, there's probably no narrative that is hotter than robotics specifically. I also, of course, like AI agents. I think they're going to do really well. Privacy-preserving AI, I think, is going to do really well. Interestingly, today, a lot of the privacy coins like Monero actually started to perform. But today, I want to specifically break down number one, and that is DePII, or Decentralized Physical AI Infrastructure, which is obviously the number one technology stack that you need to power robotics on the blockchain. So I'm going to break down the different types of DePII and give you my top picks from each subsector in robotics, from infrastructure to cloud computing to robotics infrastructure and then to physical hardware. There is a coin I'm going to be talking about in today's video that has a major auction that's happening tomorrow. So it is quite time sensitive. So if you're watching this video in time, I think it's going to sell out quite quick if you can get access to that. That could be a good opportunity. I'll break down all of the details in just a couple of minutes here. And before we get into my list, I want to remind you that this video is not financial advice. You can read the full disclaimer here. And in the link in the description below, I have a link to all of my show sponsors and partners because I believe transparency is very, very important in crypto. If you don't know, pretty much for the last year or so, we've had in the descriptions all the necessary disclosures when I hold a coin, when project is sponsoring the show. So that's something that I value really highly, that I don't see every channel in the space doing, but I think everyone should be doing. So my website's in the description. Just wanted to remind you of that, where we have every single partner fully disclosed and every single holding over $10,000 that I also disclose. Wanted to remind you of that. So now let's go through these individual sectors which constitute this broader robotics narrative. The first one is infrastructure. This is obviously quite broad, but I'm specifically looking at networks which are closely tied in terms of narrative to the AI wave. And I think when you're talking about this, you can't really look any further than BitTensor. I mean, no, technically BitTensor isn't a robotics coin, but on the subnets, you can build applications which harness BitTensor's network security in order to build, let's say, DePIN infrastructure, which of course could contribute to robotics. But overall, TAO, I think, is the front runner when it comes to the AI narrative. And in my opinion, this could be a $1,000 coin again very soon. I mean, soon in crypto, it depends what your definition of soon is, but at least in the next, year or so, I could see it making another big run. And TAO's one of my biggest AI holdings in terms of the blue chips. And then I've also got some ecosystem stuff and have been doing some seed investing in the TAO ecosystem because it's an eco that I'm quite bullish on. The next infrastructure project I want to highlight today is Peak Network. They're one of the leading DePIN networks in crypto. And I had a call with them the other day, and I was very, very impressed with them. I think they're a fantastic team. And I think they're going to do big things. If you haven't heard of Peak, basically they're powering the machine and the DeFi economy. They also have Peak SDK, so you can actually build your own DePIN with just a few lines of code, which is very helpful. And you can see here they have a bunch of modular DeFi functions from Peak ID, Peak Access, Peak Pay, Peak Store, Peak Verify, Peak Autonomous AI Agents. They're doing a lot of stuff, and I'm going to cover them a lot more in the future. But yeah, just wanted to highlight this one as one of the top infrastructure plays when it pertains to AI and, of course, robotics, because they are powering the machine economy. So that's infrastructure, some broader infrastructure stuff to start. Now we'll get into some more niche stuff. Going down the funnel, I want to look at cloud computing now because, of course, you can't have DePIN without cloud networks. I think this is a proof of concept and a product that has started to find serious product market fit in crypto. I speak to a lot of companies, real world companies in tech, also, gaming startups in Web3 and other sorts of projects that are doing AI applications. And many of them are starting to leverage networks like Aethia. So there's actually some events at Token this week that I'm going to with Aethia, and all of these partners are actually plugging into their infrastructure. So in terms of projects with product market fit, I think this is one that is really leading the pack when it comes to DePIN alongside, Peak Network. You obviously also have IONet and, Render and Filecoin. Filecoin does something slightly different. I personally prefer Aethia to Render. I think based on a valuation basis, based on the amount of total compute they have, Aethia is the better play. And interestingly, there's also a lot of funds interested in betting on this AI narrative long term. So it's a slow burn. It's not a short-term burn by any means. But if you've got some Aethia nodes or if you're a long-term holder, I think long-term there's going to be a period where this could really take off. So just wanted to put this back on the map for those that haven't watched my content in a while, because this was a project that I spoke about in the past that fundamentally I still think is doing really cool stuff. Now I'll give you an alternative that is a cloud computing play that's slightly cheaper in terms of market cap. Obviously, Aethia is a big cap. If I had to pick one cloud computing play that was a slightly smaller cap, so higher risk but had higher upside, I would probably pick Edge Network. This is one of the most undervalued based on a revenue versus market cap basis DePIN projects in the space. They were actually founded in 2013, so they're also one of the earliest DePIN projects in the space. They've built their super cloud, which obviously can be used for all sorts of stuff, whether it be agent-fi DePIN applications and, of course, robotics, which is one of the trends I want to touch on in today's video. They're actually hinting on their new robotics play here. You can see that they're saying they're continuing to expand the team with new hires at the intersection of robotics and AI. Something far bigger has been in motion behind the scenes, and it's almost time. I've had a sneak peek talking to them about what they're building, and it's very, very cool. So I think you guys are going to like this. So definitely pay attention to this. Obviously, bullish announcement in the current market where people, I guess, are feeling slightly apathetic, sometimes fly under the radar. But I think you should definitely have this project on your watch list. And I hold a decent bag of Edge tokens as well. And if you actually look at the chart, something I highlighted in Mars High Club last week was the fact that it was getting a reclaim of this key support level. And since then, it's gone on a really nice run, actually pumping 30%. Obviously, the previous range high, or the yearly high, is still another 45% away. And what I really like is that the chart never bled out. Many other protocols went like this and bled down to their supports. Edge actually held their support and was holding relative strength during the entire downtrend. So it's pretty much the exact same price it was during the peak of the bull run, because it's just chopped sideways as opposed to bleeding down. And I think that says a lot about the token and the demand for the token. I think relative strength is a very important metric in the market. You want to be going for coins that actually look good on a relative strength basis versus their peers. I think that's something BitTensor has done really well. Now, obviously not every token in today's video has relative strength versus the market. There are some coins which still look kind of weak. However, you are seeing some of them now start to uptick and gain a bit of momentum in the shorter term. But for example, something like Aethia, that's quite a long-term bet, and there's still token dilution, so you may be able to scoop up the token lower. Whereas there are other plays which are a little bit different. They're actually deflationary, or they have shorter-term catalysts which could cause price action to the upside. Like Peak Network, they had dilution in the early days into a weakening market. No surprise, the token's gone down, even though the entire market's gone down because structurally there's too much altcoin supply coming onto the market relative to demand. But in terms of decentralized physical AI infrastructure, if you want a slightly riskier bet in the cloud computing space, Edge is probably the one that I would pick. Now I want to talk about robotics infra. I'm going to talk about a token that I mentioned at the start of the video that has an opportunity over the next 24 to 48 hours that you can get involved in. And it's actually a project that I was really blown away by when I met the team. So I personally have been digging a lot into robotics. I have a team of researchers, analysts that go around the space and meet a bunch of projects. We meet dozens of projects on a weekly basis, and the majority of which we don't end up investing in. Why do I speak to a lot of projects behind the scenes? Well, it's the easiest way to vet whether someone's vision is legitimate or not. It's very hard, and I guess this is the difficult part about, being pure retail in the market with no connections, to look at a white paper and disseminate whether that is a strong play, because the underlying team is ultimately the group of people that are going to drive and push that vision forward. So if they don't know what they're doing, if they don't have the experience, then how are they going to execute on their white paper? So for me, it's almost an essential that I meet someone from the team before I invest in any project. And, I've met and I have a relationship with Mark, the founder from Aether. I've met the Peak Network guys, and I was really impressed by them. And that's why I've been adding this. Sorry, my screen's not up. That's why I've been adding this one to my portfolio as well. BitTensor, I've talked to the team there, but obviously it's a very well-known play, and a lot of the proof has been in what they've been able to ship over the last couple of years. Something like Edge, I would have never have known about if I never met the team, and I realized they were really serious. Some of the smartest guys in the space that have been building for over 12 years, while a lot of other projects are LARPing. So, needless to say, one of the things I like to do, and the reason why I'm able to bring you alpha on the shows and disseminate what the good picks are in the market, is because I'm actually meeting all of these teams. Anyway, point being, I've been meeting a lot of robotics teams, dozens of projects. A lot of them are LARPy, but one came to mind, I think, as one of the strong candidates to be a leader in this niche. The token isn't live yet. It's probably not going live for a little bit, but the project's called Ex Machina, and they have their Genesis auction very, very soon for you to actually participate and get some exposure to the network. So what is Ex Machina? Basically, what it is allowing is decentralized access to humanoid robotics and physical AI. So you can actually get exposure to private robotics companies, tokenized machine assets, and the emerging machine economy. So here's the big value proposition. The average investor in the US specifically cannot get access to private equity opportunities. Unless you're a wholesale investor, an accredited investor, you as a retail player with, let's say, not as much capital, can't get access to a lot of the VC opportunities that are actually some of the most profitable ones in these upcoming, very popular sectors like robotics. But what Ex Machina has done is it's developed a DAO structure to enable them to invest and enable the stakeholders of the project, so in this case, the token holders, to get access to the upside of the companies that they are acquiring stakes in. So this is very cool. They're investing in machine RWAs, what we're talking about today, DePI and AI projects, early stage projects, robotics companies, intellectual property within the space as well. And they're building strategic exposure across the humanoid tech stack via their connections in the space. So I had a call with them. I was very impressed, and you can almost think of it as like an ETF into the robotic space, as they are making lots of bets across the robotic space. So I recommend you go and read their white paper if you have time. It's really interesting. I'll read a little bit here and then I'll give you some auction details. Ex Machina is a decentralized ecosystem giving members direct access to the rise of humanoid robotics and physical AI technologies set to reshape the global economy. While physical AI unlocks unprecedented opportunities, access to leading robotic startups has been limited until now. Ex Machina unites a global community to pool resources, acquire stakes in top private robotics companies, deploy revenue-generating machines, and invest in early-stage decentralized physical AI, DePI, networks fueling a decentralized machine economy governed by its members. Now, if you want to become a member of the economy in 22 hours, probably around 20 hours at the time of recording this video, on April 29th, I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check it out and participate, they are going to be having their Genesis auction. So this is how you are going to be able to acquire Juice tokens pre-TGE. So when the token launches, you can swap the receipts that you'll acquire during the auction for Juice tokens themselves. So you'll be able to swap assets and actually receive Juice. Their previous auction was for Peak holders. They have a partnership with Peak Network, which is good because they're one of the top players in the space. And this is a USDC auction. So you need USDC on base. If you have it on the base network when the auction's live, you can swap USDC into the juice tokens. The auction cap is only 250K though, because it's very small, but at a competitive valuation. So yeah, I think if you can get into this, it could be a good opportunity. It's probably going to sell out quick. So obviously, it is time sensitive. If you're watching this video now, definitely pay attention to the countdown. I'll leave a link in the description. So just be aware of the time element here. I think if you're awake at that time, it's probably worth setting an alarm and at least checking it out. You can obviously read all the details regarding the participation and the token and the auction in their docs. So just go onto the website, click docs. Don't invest in anything without researching, of course. If you go down to Juice Genesis Auction, click on the Genesis Auction, you'll get all the relevant details, auction format, what the community auction is, claiming your tokens, TGE. You've got all the tokenomics here. It's all transparent. So just make sure you read that. 71% of the juice supply is dedicated to the community. So a very high skew towards the community and not VCs, which I also liked. Very small amount for advisors, even a small amount for the team. So it's quite impressive, but I guess the only way to make a community like this work, a DAO like this work, is to have the community owning the majority of the tokens. So that's going to be a really interesting play. Even post TGE, I can definitely see the narrative being quite strong there for basically the ETF of robotics, access to robotic startups that no one else can get through holding a token. I think that is quite an enticing narrative later down the track as well. So even if you don't manage to snag any tokens during the auction, I could see the token actually performing well post TGE, obviously depending on the valuation. If it launches crazy high, then there might be some recalibration needed. If it launches low, which it may because the market's not that amazing at the moment, then it could actually be a good opportunity to buy after the auction as well. For those that miss out, but hopefully you watch this video in time. So that is a robotics play, specifically, that's a very targeted play towards robotics because they are investing in a lot of that. And obviously the cloud computing stuff, the infra stuff is a little bit broader. Now I want to pivot our attention to wrap up the video here into physical hardware. I couldn't make a video about robotics or AI or DePIN without speaking about physical hardware. Now, technically, Aethia does have physical hardware, whereas something like Render is, purely cloud compute. People basically plug their resources into the marketplace and then it'll distribute. Peak Network is an example of an infrastructure play. But now I want to focus on companies that are primarily, their business models are primarily based around acquiring physical hardware and I guess using the profits gained off that hardware in order to bolster the network. The obvious one when I speak about this topic that comes to mind is Morphware. It's very, very cool. They basically use hydroelectricity, so renewable electricities, to buy and acquire more GPUs, which mine Bitcoin, and they're able to mine it at a much lower price because their energy is really cheap. They use NVIDIA DGX B200s, and the entire network, so the profits from this process go back into the token in terms of buybacks. And that's why you can see on the chart right now, they've been absolutely pumping while the rest of the market's bleeding. I actually highlighted this breakout on the show last week. I also highlighted it in the Discord. From that breakout level, they're now up 52%. From the range low, they are now up 123% because there's a lot of buy pressure actually on the token. So this is one that I'm a big holder of and I think is really cool because if long-term you do believe in AI, long-term if you believe in the need for these GPUs and GPU power, Morphware I think is a good bet because the more Bitcoin they're able to mine, the more money they're able to make, they can basically just keep acquiring hardware and then they're able to do all sorts of stuff with that hardware. For example, AI API calls is an example of one potential use case for this that could be attractive for the public market because if you want to create an AI application, a lot of them rely on API calls. For example, if you want to scrape tweets from Twitter, you need to call the API. And every time you do that, you're paying money. Or if you want to ping an oracle to get data on the live prices of a house, you'll either have to pay a crazy amount to an oracle or you can use a service to get the API calls cheaper because basically that's all derived from the underlying energy. So Morphware is actually enabling you to buy for a fraction of the price API calls to power AI applications. So they're actually able to use this energy arbitrage and go to big applications. So I wouldn't be surprised to see other big companies in the AI space partnering with Morphware just because it's more economical versus going out and paying top dollar for their API calls and for their electricity. Let's move on with the final physical hardware play here, and that's Pinlink. It's not the exact same as Morphware, but they are also acquiring lots of GPUs in Abu Dhabi, I believe. They're powering their DePIN network. It's an RWA marketplace, and they're also obviously able to go in to robotics, real-world agents, and all this sort of stuff because of their ability to acquire compute. So you can see their tweet here. We believe Pinlink's real-world agents can be between the world of AI and the real-world economy. Our Pinnacle RWA marketplace achieves step 1 by tokenizing the value of real-world assets. If you want to know what this means, people can basically upload their RWAs onto the platform. So any real device, GPU, anything basically, any real-world asset can be tokenized and put on their marketplace and allow a counterparty to, in the case of energy, tap into the network and get energy. But they also, of course, have their own localized physical hardware. I think in Abu Dhabi. Their Fractalia agent series achieves step 2 by connecting agents to real-world value. As we see advanced robotics increasingly rolled out in the coming year, Pinlink will also be well placed to sit at the center of that new ecosystem of value. Fractalia is just one small piece of the Pinlink puzzle for dominating the RWA and AI space, but it's a vital one. So they're going heavy into robotics, and it totally makes sense because their marketplace is composable and can be used for any sort of RWA, and that's no different for robotics, which obviously rely on cloud computing. I didn't really get into this much earlier in the video, but let's ask ourselves, why do robotics and humanoid robots specifically require cloud computing? Well, they can either have crazy amounts of hardware localized, which is obviously going to make them extremely inefficient, heavy. It's just not efficient at all. It's much more efficient for them to tap into a cloud network, so actually get their computing power from the cloud somewhere. And the perfect sort of incentivization model is to actually use DePIN, because you can incentivize people all around the world to contribute to a network. And I think this is one of the reasons why products like Aethia, Edge, Render to some extent, like these DePIN plays have actually found product market fit, whilst many other plays haven't. It's because this entire AI wave is reliant on energy. It's an energy economy. So going back to Pinlink, because they are a marketplace which offers this energy, that's going to be an important thing for companies that are looking to tap into this. But in terms of the humanoid robots themselves, they actually couldn't really benefit from crypto. And it's one of the crossovers which I think makes sense. AI agents make a lot of sense as well. Trading on chain with AI agents is a no-brainer. Everyone's going to be doing it. I'm already doing it a lot. You're probably going to be doing it a lot very soon if you aren't already. But you can actually take that a step further into physical infrastructure, which obviously is the major topic of today's video. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll leave a link in the description below to any of the relevant resources. I hope you have a nice rest of your day and enjoy this video. And I will do a follow-up because I'm actively researching this sector a lot. So my research team and myself are constantly looking into new plays. These aren't the last robotics plays I'll talk about. There'll probably be more in the future, especially as the narrative heats up. And X Market is really one of the only specific, very targeted robotics protocols, but I think you'll see some more being launched. I know there are a few that recently did big raises. They might be a bit different, but there will also be other companies probably targeting this narrative. So I'm excited to keep you guys up to date with the latest developments there. I think DePI will be a big narrative. DeFi, which is, decentralized agents that foster DeFi applications, and then DePI is obviously physical AI infrastructure. See you in the next video. I'm going to enjoy my event that I'm actually hosting now, which is going to be a lot of fun, and then got a crazy week at Token, but we'll keep the uploads coming. Peace out.